Hello, everyone. This is your host, Diedrich Davis. Coming up next is a new episode of Black Nerds Matter. On this show, we get real experiences, thoughts, and advice from different black professionals in the world of STEM. Stay tuned at WMNF Radio for more. Come for the science, stay for the nerds. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Nerds Matter. Today, we're joined by Jalen Smith, a talented filmmaker and recent graduate from Yale University as a community college transfer student. There, he majored in political science. Jalen's passion for storytelling and social impact shines through his work, which includes a documentary thesis on the energy crisis in South Africa and its links to systemic corruption. Beyond filmmaking, he brings a unique perspective as a skateboarder, freediver, and urban forestry enthusiast. Jalen is dedicated to exploring complex issues and making them accessible, hoping to inspire audiences to think deeply about our global environment and societal connections. What's up, Jalen? How you doing, man?
Hey, Diedrich. Good to hear you. Good having you.
Yeah, it's great having you here. We haven't talked since Ocean X, so we talked a little bit after that. But man, yeah, I'm glad to see you, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. I still miss it, honestly.
So where are you at now?
I'm back home right now in LA for a bit. But yeah, just like, honestly, recovering from that, finishing personal projects, chilling, and you know how it is post-grad, just job search.
Oh, yeah, I definitely know how that is. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about your journey into all the things you've been doing and even leading up to when we met at Ocean X this summer. So starting with your journey, like I was saying, where'd you grow up and how was home life for you as a kid?
So I grew up in LA, but people who are like SoCal native, I was born in Orange County, was there for about maybe like 9 years, and then my mom, sister, and we moved to LA County. So I grew up in Pasadena, California, went to school there. Home life, yeah, it's mainly just me, my mom, my sister, my dad's not in the picture. And then weekends, I would like spend weekends with my grandparents. Yeah, honestly, pretty, I don't know, I would say typical upbringing, just big family. Yeah, big family, one younger sister, just my mom.
Okay, awesome. So I remember when we were on the boat and everything, you telling me you were black, and I was like, yeah, I could definitely see it. So I remember you
Yeah,
were telling me you were Asian and black, correct?
yeah. Yeah, my mom's side's Chinese, my dad's side's black.
Okay, how was that for you growing up in LA? Like, did you feel any different that you were black or that you weren't quite black enough or weren't quite Asian enough or anything like that?
Yeah, I feel like just because that's been my experience, it's hard for me to think of that experience being different just because that's what I've known all my life, right? It's like I'm half this, half that. I'm not fully this, I'm not fully that. So it's like that's something that even today, as you know, a young adult, that I'm still like dealing with or trying to understand better, learning about. Yeah, so I would say like I feel like I am more disconnected to my black side, and that's something that I'm still trying to learn. You know, what does that mean? You know, being someone who's biracial, but is also like wanting to learn more and be part of more black spaces. And then just with my family here, so because I've grown up with my mom's side, it's like I'm the mixed kid. My sister and I were the mixed kids, and you know, it's like we're not Asian enough because we're half black, and yeah, even just growing up, like my mom telling me that the family like wanted to, well, not like our family, but just like extended family thought that you know she should be disowned because she was with a black guy. So just like hearing stuff like that
Wow.
is kind of hard. Yeah,
No, that's insane. I just remember seeing you. I saw like the beard and the straight hair. I thought you were like Dominican immediately. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So I was like, this
dude.
dude's black for sure. And I remember you telling me you're like, yeah, people usually get that. And I was like, oh, I definitely saw it like immediately.
Yeah, no, like you tell it because it's funny you say Dominican. I've gotten like I feel like at this point I have like a list in my head of what I've gotten just because I'm so like racially ambiguous. I get Filipino and Latino the most. Yeah, I've never gotten Dominican. Yeah, I have gotten Indonesian, Polynesian, and then like as of recently it was like Middle Eastern. So I was like, okay, so I've kind of got it all.
So what put you to going to Yale? Like I know you ended up being a community college student, everything
Yeah.
beforehand. How'd you get into Yale and why'd you go to community college first?
Yeah, so I I would say I have a really unique journey in that sense, very non-traditional. So I graduated in 2020. I graduated high school in 2020, and that was like the COVID year. And I will say that I applied to schools like Yale out of high school just because I was coming from like a really competitive school district, and there were lots of kids who were, really qualified, and I feel like that was just sort of the staple was like you need to aim for these schools, you need to aim really high. So like I applied, and I mean I didn't get in, which was honestly kind of a blessing at the time. I didn't realize it just because it's not so much like I need these schools or that like this was something that I had to do. It was just more like I recognized that it was because of the pressures of other people applying to the schools that I felt like I needed to, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do in my life at that point. So it was like
Mm.
me going to that school and not knowing what I want to do would hit me like crazy, like imposter syndrome. Like, what am I doing here? I don't even have my shit figured out. So I took that as a time to like really understand, learn myself better. And so I went to community college. And like at that point, it was like really, really taboo to go to community college because people were going off to like incredible schools. And then it's like when people ask me what school I was going to, it's like, there's a bit of shame there telling people I go to community college. But then I look back and it was just like, that was one of the best decisions, like probably one of the best decisions I made for my life, just because the people I met there, right? They're just coming from like everybody there, they've got nothing to prove. So it's like you're going there and you're meeting like single parents. You got people who are working full-time jobs, people who are like military veterans, and they're just all trying to get a good education. So it's like I met some of the most genuine people in my classes there, and nobody had like a single thing to prove. So I was able to just explore a lot and understand myself more. Like, what did I really want? So I sort of like refound that love for learning. And then like during that time, like 2020 was, especially political. I also had just this interest that was growing in like politics. So I thought like, I felt more motivated to just get involved and do like advocacy work outside of school, which is different organizations. And from there, I transferred, and then I was accepted into Yale, and that was just something that was like extremely validating. And at that point, I try to tell people because a lot of people, they want to know how that's possible, and it's close to impossible just because they accept so few people. So yeah, just for like I guess just for context, like they accept around 20 people like per year to transfer to their school out of thousands of people, just
Wow.
20 people. Yeah, so I was like one of like 25. And I think it was just because at that point I was just so confident in what I was doing in life that I didn't feel like I needed to go to Yale. Like I went to community college, and wherever I went, I was okay with. Basically, like it humbled me, and they saw that they really liked it. So luckily, like that was just the cherry on top is that I got into Yale. Um, but from there, yeah. So I transferred. I transferred with the intent to study political science, and then film didn't come like until later on, but yeah, I can touch more on that like later.
Okay, I think that's so interesting when you talk about community college, especially you talk about like kind of the shame aspect of it, because I remember senior and junior year, people are getting their letters from schools and all that. And bunch of people
Yeah,
especially like the popular kids, the popular girls and stuff, are all taking their pictures in front of these huge
yeah,
universities, these 4-year unis, and taking pictures together. Oh, we're all about to be Texans together or Aggies or whatever. Because in Texas, there's all these huge schools that everyone was going to. Every single person you knew was going to one of like the four or five big schools.
it was
So I
like
can see how
Dallas,
you mean like,
Austin,
yeah,
A&M. Yeah,
exactly. So it was always you see people talking about, oh, I'm going to Oklahoma, I'm going to OU, I'm going to OU, Oklahoma, OSU, I'm going to TCU, all these other kind of things,
yeah,
man. So I can see how you have like the shame and you're like, man, I'm not there. But then you go from being in like the less desirable choices people would say to being in the probably the most desirable one for anyone. Like, oh, I went from this to Yale. It's like going
yeah,
from something like that to Stanford or Harvard or whatever. You know what I mean? And I think that
yeah.
that's very interesting, and that's very good that you were able to get a different perspective during that time, because I think a lot of people put power in the name of stuff, and it's not necessarily that important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I felt like during that time, it was like it didn't really matter. Like when I say it humbled me to the highest possible extent. Like it was during COVID. Everybody was online anyways. Like people were going to the schools. They were paying thousands of dollars to go to these schools, and we were getting the same education. So it's like I did all of my general ed and didn't have to pay a dime. Like it was community college was completely free for me. And I was getting the same education, and like all of that had transferred over, and it all ended up going towards my Yale degree. So it was like I had literally nothing to prove.
Okay. So I want to hear about this film project in Africa. Obviously, I was looking up you afterwards. I mean, you had showed me your website on the boat, so I looked at it a bit before this, and saying that filmmaker, free diver, skateboarder, and then you're in Africa shooting these movies. How you get to do all that, man? Tell me about each of those things, and how does that shape you as this full person?
Yeah. So I think it's pretty important to note that like Yale really like changed the trajectory of my life in the sense that they have a lot of money and like they can make that possible. So I wouldn't have been able to go to South Africa if not for Yale. But I will say that it was the drive and just the curiosity and the want to go there that started that in the first place. So I think like had I been anywhere else, I would have gone there eventually. It probably just would have taken longer just because, Yale is so well resourced, and I just had to find a means of making use of that and figuring out how do I make use of this incredible institution, the money, the resources that they have so that I can get to where I need to be. So yeah, summer of my junior year, I came across this like opportunity where there was this media company based in Africa, and they have like a program where they will train up and coming filmmakers, and they'll take you on game drives. Like you'll live on the reserve with the wildlife. So I lived in South Africa over the summer. That was just more like I went in with the intent to get camera um, production experience. So I had just made the decision that I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I didn't have like behind the camera experience. So I really wanted to, I guess the best possible way was like get in the field and actually use a camera, be in these places, um, and just make that possible. So it was really just like a daydream that turned into my reality within like 2 months, which is like absolutely insane. I was like scrambling to get like my passport renewed, like all of that within 2 months because I had to make it possible because it would be like my last chance to get funding for it, just because the way that the like scholarship or funding was set up was that I could only use it before like my senior year, but because I was a transfer student I only had 2 years there, so there was really only one summer that I could use it on, which was that summer. So yeah, I got that fully covered for, but I was living in South Africa with other, I guess, students, film creatives who also wanted to be filmmakers. I was also like we were staying in this like guest house for a bit, and there were like also girls there who were doing like shark research because South Africa has got like
Wow.
they've got sharks and they've got really really good diving there. So people from like all different backgrounds doing different things, but it was just like I felt like I was surrounded by like people like me, which was just so validating because prior to that, and like being, so academically inclined and just surrounded by people who were studying to become, doctors, lawyers, all of that, just really practical and traditional jobs. It was like this exists because there are people out there, like you, that are doing stuff that like is very non conventional and different and like outside of the box, and it was like that was the life that I was chasing after. So it was just like it was incredible just to live amongst these animals, get to learn them, and like just see some of the most beautiful things, dude. Like when I tell you, like we had like one day, and you might have seen it on my website, but like I used this shot quite a bit, was just like the silhouette of the elephants. Yeah, like we saw that, and it was
So
just
cool.
it was like completely unexpected. Like our game ranger said that like, oh, they don't usually come up that during that time, but we had set up the cameras to capture the sunset, and it's just like here they are, just like walking in a line in front of our cameras, and it was just like absolutely beautiful. And then like yeah, some people started tearing up, and it was just like this is what I'm here for, dude. Like this is the feeling. This is exactly what I want to do. This is where I need to be. So that's more or less like what my summer was just like, it was life changing, and it just motivated me to work towards something like that and getting back out there again.
I would have cried too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd have been crying too, bawling my
Yeah,
eyes out. Like I mean, too. And I see sharks and stuff, even sometimes in sea turtles. I'm feel the same like teary, like oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever, like,
I
feeling.
know.
So I totally understand. So is that where you learned how to free dive? Was it in South Africa or?
No, not South Africa. So that started that started my interest in free diving, because I was living with people who do dive, and they were talking about different locations and just how South Africa has really really good diving locations. So from there, that's when I started getting interested in the ocean. So it's like, foreshadowing. But yeah, from there, like when I came back and I was at school, that's when I was looking. So I'm still pretty new to free diving. Like I'm gonna try to take like professional courses here at Catalina.
Mhm.
But yeah, like when I started, I it was a lot of like underwater stuff, underwater camera stuff. Because one of my instructors when I was in South Africa, he's like, you know what, you gotta figure out where you're gonna go next, whether it be wildlife or whether it be rock climbing, whatever. He's like, just expand your skill set and focus on something. So for me, that became the ocean. So I was like, all right, where do I start? I can look at freediving, I can look at scuba. Where do I start? So I just was buying or looking, researching different stuff for my camera, what's going to be suitable for my camera. And then, yeah, when I got the opportunity to travel, I did a lot of underwater stuff during the semester. And that was just like incredible. I was like, yeah, I need to be in the water more.
Oh, and I'm sure you saw the Ocean X application and was like, hell yeah, this is perfect. I got all the stuff
Yeah.
ready. Let's go and do
Yeah.
it.
I was like, come on, like, this is perfect. Like, it's literally a dream. Like, and it was.
So talking about Ocean X, since I mentioned it right then, man, that was awesome. I mean, meeting you and meeting everyone else there, I still think about it. What do you think was the most impactful thing for you? I know you didn't love the live streams. I don't think any of us did. But
Oh, yeah. No,
what
no.
was
I
the
think that
best
was
part for
unanimous.
you?
Um, Honestly, I think like, man, I'm literally still wrapping my head around it, to be honest. Like there's just so many different layers to that experience, and I feel like even on our last day, there was just so much shit going on that I feel like I didn't really get to articulate how profound being with you all was. Like there was just so many emotions and goodbyes and just a lot of stuff that I couldn't really like, yeah, articulate at the time. But yeah, just because it's been back and I've just been reflecting a lot about that. I just think like the most powerful thing on board was the people. Like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
surrounded by insane technology and just stuff that is like absolutely incredible, just the work being done. But it's like the people are the heart of the ship. Like meeting, hearing from like Olaf, Shelly, Izzy, like everybody, and just like, and Larissa, like everyone. And just like what they do, and just seeing them smile and light up because of us, like our interests, was just like really, really touching. And yeah, like we got the opportunity to like live on board, right? Do the things we got to do, see the things that we got to see, and just the idea that a lot of people, most people, will never get to see stuff like that in their entire life is like, it's sad, but it's also motivating. Like we got the opportunity to see this stuff firsthand, and it's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna pay that forward. Like I'm 22 years old, I have my whole life ahead of me. Like you're young too. Like we all are so young, and they gave us that opportunity to see that and witness that, because it's like we're the next generation. So it's like going in with that mindset and already have had that experience. It's like, look what we can be capable of. So it's like, I'm gonna really make what I do count, because I know that there are incredible people on that ship, rooting for us, giving us that opportunity to see what they're doing, just motivating and being inspired by them. Um, so it's like, yeah, they're all the way overseas and far away, but it's like, they're still in here.
To me, it was wonderful how human everyone was because everyone on that ship is like top 0.5% in their field. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the best chefs, the best people in the bridge, the best people, science communicators like in the world are working for these companies. And they were
yeah,
also human and down to earth and cool to us. I mean, we didn't know what was going on at all. And they were all like, yeah, I mean, you guys have fun. You guys have a good time. And
Right.
the craziest thing I think about is some of my professors at my school at Eckerd, where I went. I had some professors who were super tough on people and super mean about things and different stuff. And I'm like, man, how are you being all? And I'm like, I don't know if they're upset about their circumstances or what's going on because these other people who are way better than them at this stuff, like the
Mhm.
peak of the peak, were the nicest, most kind, most patient people that I've ever met. It made me think about that a lot of people that are at the top, they probably get there from being just so
Right.
kind-hearted and caring and very personable and human because people value that so much. And it made me really want to work on myself and try to be as positive as I can in the next part of my life because I don't want to ever make anyone feel small because those are some of the biggest people ever in our fields. They made us feel huge, and that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I just think like whether it just be karma or whatever, it's like you're putting in that energy, and you just have to have faith that that energy and the universe is going to give back to you in that way. And it's like those people, they made it, and they didn't make it by hurting people's feelings or being a hard ass or whatever. It's just like
Hmm.
you can just tell that they were just genuine, and the world will, give back to people like that. Yeah.
I mean, because dude, like, there's times I have bad times now, especially now looking for a job, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I was like, dude, I just free dove in Bali and got drunk
Yeah.
on my flight, and on my 13-hour flight, and
Yeah.
listening to music. I got my eye thing on. I'm on Qatar Airlines on the nicest plane I've ever been on in my life. I was like, bro, like that was pretty kick ass. Like that was awesome. And then I met all
Yeah.
these people now that I still interact with, and I'm still very close with, and still would like. I feel like I got closer with. I've never gotten closer with a group of people in a smaller amount of time than what had happened there.
Yeah. I think honestly, it's just pretty incredible. Like when you think about it, just like on, I don't know, just taking a look back at just the actual days that we were there. It's not a lot of time, but it felt like
Mm-mm.
so long. It felt so long. And it was like not just because, we were doing stuff like day and night, but it was just like the level of like connection that we had was just like so strong, and it just felt like we had lived lifetimes, or like we already knew each other from the start.
It's like when people, yeah, like how you said you know somebody for a little bit, but you feel like you could have been friends for a lifetime. We all had got along like a family, like from day one. Like me getting
Yeah.
there, I remember getting there at night and eating at that table in Jakarta, and everybody's talking and hanging out. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm so exhausted because I'm like 7 time zones away from where I'm at, but we're all just sitting there hanging. Like, yeah, this is great. We're doing some cool stuff, and it was just, I don't know, man. That was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah, it was just like everyone just like clicked, and that was just something that I came to learn is when you're like in spaces where like there's something that you're super passionate about. Everyone is just so grateful to be there. Everyone is just as interested as you. It's like you're just gonna click. Like everybody is on that same frequency, and it just made like our bond like even stronger because we were all there for like the same reason. We were all chosen for the same reason. So it like it makes sense why we would all get along.
Yeah, it was great. And I want to switch gears a little bit and talk more
Yeah.
about you and what you're working on. Are there any upcoming projects or things that you're able to talk to us about that you've been working on recently? I know you have plenty of time being at home and everything. I want to know what else you got going on.
Yeah. So since I've been back, like I've been working on like a few personal projects, and so these are like short films I started during the school year and never got around to finishing. They're not like as grand per se, but I think I've been kind of experimenting with my filmmaking style just because I try to find more time to be creative. And when I do find, that spark, it's like I'm not always going to be in South Africa. I'm not always going to be in Indonesia. I'm not going to always be somewhere. So it's like, what does that look like for me when I'm at home? So yeah, like during the school year, I was like filming, and then I was also working on some projects while I was in my apartment. But this was more like a focus on like everyday life instead of all of the incredible things that people are used to seeing, or that I would be used to seeing. So I'm kind of making it more of this journey of like self-discovery. So it's like a series of short films that I'm working on, and it's about like balancing the mundane every day with the extraordinary. um Like, what does that look like? So I hope to put those out within like the next year. But some work of mine that you can check out that is dropping soon. It was two productions that I worked on for the Nature Conservancy. And when we went to Indonesia and came back, like I was in the middle of like these two productions. So when I came back, I had to like wrap these up. And so these were two productions I worked on. And they're basically like short form documentaries. And they're about, the urban forestry space in Baltimore. And I filmed it in Baltimore, but the hope is for it to start conversations like all over. Basically, like for some context, the state of Maryland has this tree planting goal that they want to put 5 million trees in the ground by 2030. And TNC, Nature Conservancy, they wanted to express, why it's important for there to be more trees. But they didn't want to just like be this organization that just spits numbers at people. Like it didn't seem like that was the most effective or really an effective way of getting people to care about this. So they wanted to just take like a different approach and direction this time around that was more focused on like media and art and storytelling as well. So that's sort of where I came in. So the films that I was working on were more focused on people, like their stories and just like the reactions to the work being done. And yeah, it was just like it makes sense just because like these are the people who it's affecting is the people. And it's about them at the end of the day. So people can give you as many numbers or statistics or just data, but it's like that's not really gonna resonate with people as much. Like it's maybe with some people, but not with other people. So it's like, how can we universally communicate that we need to plant more trees? But yeah, so that's sort of the project. And there was also this aspect of like trying to rebuild the relationship that Black people have with nature. Just because I'm, working and filming, and the focus is on like these underserved areas. And there's just this aspect of there being a disconnect, with Black people in nature for so long that there needs to be this need for more green spaces. And I mean, yeah, you can even tie it into the ocean. It's just like nature in general, right? So yeah, my work is hopefully dropping in the next few months. Like they didn't give me an exact timeline, but if you want to follow and read more about the project, the website is tothejungles.com. So yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna link that in your show. So one thing I'm wondering about is political science, filmmaking. I know people have probably seen plenty of stuff where someone's recording a riot or different things like that.
Yeah.
How do you marry those two things together to create what you do? I mean, especially talking about what you did in Africa and how like the urban forestry stuff you were talking about before. I want to know, how do you put these two things together to create the media that you do for everyone else?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I explained a bit like before my interest in, political science came from, but the film part really didn't come until I was, in a space where I was surrounded by a lot of people who were in politics. And that, that's really like what Yale is known for, is like people are trying to become, the next Supreme Court justice, next president, legislators, just all of that. Like
Interesting.
politics. So you would think that I would be motivated by that, but actually I realized like this is not what I want to do. And it's like a part of me felt like, am I letting the people who took a chance on me down, right? Because
hmm
I'm going in for politics. Like my application was all about politics. This is what I want to do. And me realizing I'm getting there, and it's like, this is not what I want to do, but how do I still pay that forward? So I used the resources Yale had to find out what I really wanted to do, because I wasn't just gonna like, let that be a waste. So that's, what led me to South Africa. But I realized like my passion was really in like creating. Like at the end of it, I like to create. I've always had this interest in like video editing, film, all of that. Like I would film like little skits with like my sister on the iPad and stuff and edit that. And I had been tried to make YouTube videos like when I was young, and just really, really enjoyed doing that and just creating. That I was like, what, I think I want to be behind a camera. And it wasn't just like being
hmm
behind a camera. It was more like, well, the politics side, like I'm not so interested in the politics side, but what about it drew me there in the first place? And it was the fact that, I could create change. I could make something powerful with what I do. So it wasn't just like, hey, let me just make these videos and put them out. It was like, I can make something like that can actually make a difference. So I wanted to focus on making a difference behind the camera, instead of, being on the front end or trying to be, legislator or just something that I wasn't really drawn to anymore. It was just like, hey, I can still do that same thing, but in a very different way. So that's where I wanted to more focus on being behind a camera and trying to tell stories that I feel like were necessary telling. So it was more or less advocating through a different medium. And yeah, so that's sort of where I learned that passion, and just balancing those two now, like with what I do. I'm not making like a travel video or just some really cool edit or trailer or anything like that. It's just like I'm trying to tell important stories, and I'm trying to create some impact that can really emotionally resonate with people and get them to ask those questions themselves, and figure out what that means for their life, and what how can they move forward. Because it's like, I'm going through all of this stuff as a filmmaker, as a creator, as an individual, but I have to keep in mind, like, the audience. So what do I want the audience to feel out of this? And at the end of the day, I want the audience to care about the things that I care about. So I think that's sort of what it means for me to be a filmmaker, is like, I want them to care about what I care about, and I want them to feel the types of things that I feel.
I love getting inside the mind of a photographer or filmmaker, because for me, dude, I hate working with cameras. Like, man, me on there. Like, I like to be in front of the camera. That's something that I learned very early on, is I'm not scared
Yeah.
to talk in front of a camera or talk in front of people or whatever. But for me, it was working the camera and doing that, and to see those awesome shots you got of me diving and everything, and you're up there, and I just see you holding the camera and recording me and
Yeah.
all that. I'm like, dude, I cannot do it. Like, there's plenty of times when I've tried to use a camera and failed. Like, I even have a scar on my forehead from diving and going back with the camera attached to my BCD. I went
Damn.
back and cut my whole forehead open, and I'm bleeding all over the reef in
Yeah.
Polynesia. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm just not meant to be a photographer, a filmmaker, videographer, none of that stuff. I'm like, this is just not for me. So I wonder, what kind of advice do you have for people that are trying to get into photography or filmmaking and want to record the things they do on a daily basis? Because I want to get better at that, and you seem to be a
Yeah.
master from what I'm seeing from you.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Um, yeah, honestly, I think like, so if we're talking like people who genuinely want to be better at filmmaking or like be a filmmaker, I would say just document and film when you can. Just like, start small, like go outside, film something cool. Just start small and document, record, get creative. Just find stories to tell, and stories that you find interesting, that maybe somebody else wouldn't, but you find it. Like, that's really what matters, is just find that creative spark somewhere. But if, like, you're talking about just getting into filming and documenting what you're doing, like, I probably recommend something that's just like pretty accessible. Like, if that, if the setup and the build is too complicated and it gets in the way, like GoPro. Like, a lot of people are using GoPros. They're using the, like, Osmo Pocket, like the little one. Nowadays, I see that a lot. People running around with those. To make, like, I guess, to make documenting and to make videoing like more accessible. So there are like very small form like devices and ways that you can film and integrate, video and documenting into your life now. Like vlogging, people are vlogging. But yeah, I would just say, just for people who want to get into filmmaking and want to be better at that, like, just create when you can, just create and film when you can.
Man, I just wonder how you feel about like GoPros, because man, I can't stand damn GoPros and having to carry one all the time and doing stuff. And that's my thing. And I'm wondering how
Yeah.
you feel about this, is that I hate recording things. I always feel like it takes me out of the experience. Like, for
Mhm.
instance, when we were in Bali, people were like, yo, take my or Emma was like, yeah, take my GoPro. And I
Yeah.
love her. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna record anything. I'm not gonna remember what I did at all if I
Yeah.
record this, because all I'm gonna remember is seeing the back of this tiny screen. I'm not gonna remember
Yeah.
doing it. So I
What's
wonder,
in front of you?
how do you manage enjoying what's going on around you versus knowing the time to record. Because for me, I can't do both at the same time. I don't know about you, but I can't.
Dude, that's an awesome question. That's a really good question. I mean, before I get into like my answer, I will say a tip is you can buy a dive mask and it'll attach to GoPro up here if you really want to get into like filming your stuff and your diving. Like that, I would say is
Oh,
the solution.
send me that link right now, man. Send me that
Yeah,
link right after this. I need
yeah.
that.
So I've seen people do that, and honestly, like you're completely hands free. You're not seeing it through a screen. You got your goggles. It's just up here filming your POV. So I feel like that's the perfect solution. But yeah, I would say like in terms of balancing, being in the moment and filming, like that's something that I'm learning and still learning, just because like I want to disconnect, but like I'm also, that's like sort of that's my job is to film. And I didn't really learn about that until I was in South Africa. And it's like I'm looking through a screen. I've got lions, I've got elephants, I got rhinos in front of me filming, right? And it's like every time I'm looking at my screen, I'm taken away from that moment in front of me. And and I think what really, I guess, made me want to find that balance was like my instructor was saying. He's like, he said one line, it just stuck with me. He said nothing. I think he said something about like nothing is worth, or your life is not worth the shot. Your life is not worth the shot. That's what he said. Um, and he was mainly saying that in like a safety perspective. Like we had an instance where we were filming a hippo, and the guy that I
Ooh.
was also filming with, like hippos are super, like I'm sure like hippos are super aggressive. Like they're the cause
Mm-hmm.
of the most human deaths. Filming a hippo in its like water hole, super super territorial, and so this guy that was also filming, his name is Jason, and he was like this in his camera the whole time, right? And the hippo's coming from the water hole, and it's great because like we don't have a shot of the hippo just like standing there, like he was always in the water. So he just came back from his like daily walk, and he was about to be in the water hole, and he sees us like at the end of the water hole, and he just like charges, and the
Oh
game ranger was
nah.
telling us, to get back in the truck,
Mm-mm.
and Jason was still like this filming, and they're like, Jason, we're like calling him, and then he realizes until he looks up and he sees how close it is, that he just like bolts and grabs the camera and hops back in the truck. But it's just like from there, it's like, yeah, no shot is worth your life, like in that sense, a safety issue,
Ooh.
but also, yeah, figuring out how to balance that. It's like obviously I can't be like this the whole time or looking down the whole time, but yeah, I try to see it as a way where like I'm capturing stuff, and the stuff that I capture when I watch it back, obviously just based on the stuff on my website, it's like it's just as powerful because I get to watch it back and have those moments. So I give myself more slack when I am filming, but I do make it um an active thing to just to be, disconnected when I'm filming and trying to be in that moment. So I'm making it as subtle as possible. Like, yeah, I'm filming and I'm focused, but I'm also trying to actively be in that moment too.
And the interesting thing is, I noticed that about you, especially on the boat, is usually when I meet somebody and they're telling me, oh, or someone tells you about somebody, oh, they're a filmmaker or they a photographer. You usually expect that person to be like getting a picture of everything, like literally every single moment that is on the boat or what's going on. And I realized for you, you really would have a couple moments. It was like you would set up like small periods through the day where you would take pictures or videos or whatever, and the rest of the time you were with us hanging out. And I'd never seen that before from somebody that was big into that. Because I have some people I know who do that diving. They'll have a whole rig be down there, and that's what they're doing the entire time. And I even had a dive master who told me, yeah, people with cameras make for horrible dive buddies. And that's something that I always think about. And I wanted to know, do you how much do you know about hippos from studying and being in Africa?
um Honestly, like I had just known that stuff, like they were the most cause of human deaths, and they were part of either, I don't know, are they a part of the big five? I wasn't sure. I have to look that up. But yeah, like I got to learn a bit about them because we were living there, and there was a hippo, and we had to just understand like his day to day, what ticks him off, what doesn't tick him off. So kind of like that with just animals, is just learning about what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, because that's a part of, what I find interesting about what I do is, when I'm capturing, it's like I also want to be engaged with what I'm capturing. So just even like, you know, what you brought up about me being on the ship, like nobody's ever commented about that, but it didn't make me realize that until now. Yeah, like I wanna be as much as a learner as I am, like, you know, a documentarian. So yeah, I did get to learn quite a bit about like the wildlife there and everything. So
Okay, so I have a fun fact for you from your resident animal science major. You know
yeah,
that hippos can't swim?
I didn't know that. No.
No, so they're so heavy. They literally they have this, they're built into them like this great like lung capacity and ability to hold in air. So
Yeah.
they're so dense and heavy that they hold as much breath as they can. They literally sink to the bottom and walk across the bottom until they get to the other side and go up. So they're so bad at swimming that they're good swimmers. Isn't that
Damn.
insane?
Yeah. I mean, that now that you say that, like that does make sense. I'm like, yeah, they're so dense. There's no way that those little feet can like swim with that big ginormous body.
Well, and you also realize how they're never anywhere where the water is extremely deep for that reason as well. Because
Yeah.
they got to be able to, like, you'll never like elephants can swim in the ocean, a hippo cannot. You know,
Hmm.
and elephants can swim, and they're bigger and they can swim. So I think
That's
it's
true.
insane to when I found that out a few years ago. Like I had a professor, he was like, "Yeah, you know, they literally can't swim. They're just heavy and they walk across till they get to the bottom. And like your density is that much of a factor. It makes you a submarine. That's insane to me, and that's
Yeah.
why like I love animals and seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The more you know, dude.
So I know every artist has their nerdy side. What makes you a nerd? Whether it's a favorite hobby or topic or unexpected interest of yours, share it with us.
Yeah, I mean I touched a bit on that. Just the the yeah, animal ocean fun facts, and whether it be just animals like marine life, wildlife. Yeah, I've just come to learn a lot about like the animal kingdom, and um it's, yeah, it's fascinating. It's just honestly fascinating, and just how beautiful and intelligent life other than us, like, you know, I got to learn a lot about the inner workings of like a lion pride and elephant pack, and lions. You know, when lions, like they'll mate like up to like 3,000 times just to get a single cub. And that's
Wow.
just because, yeah, it's like it's extremely hard like for them to have like a litter of cubs, and that means that they'll be doing it like every 20 to 30 minutes. So yeah, yeah. and
It sounds like
and
something ain't working. It don't that don't sound real efficient.
I know, but it's just like, yeah, it's like they do it as much as possible, because it's like there's only so few chances for it to like for them to actually like have a litter. So it's, yeah, I don't know, they're
Yeah.
they're quite fascinating, and I was pretty fascinated by just like the lioness, because um she's protector, but she's also hunter, like, and the male lions would be sleeping during the day, but she was
I
the
bet
one
after
who, I
all
would
that.
say, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
who, yeah, but she was just incredibly badass. But yeah, so I think like the non-related thing about me with like the nerdy side is like I would say not so much anymore, but I used to be a huge comic book nerd. Like I got this poster, I got all posters up on my room. So I was like huge comic book nerd, like into, you know, Marvel and DC, and was basically like a superhero encyclopedia at one point, but I, you know, not so much interested in that anymore. So I kind of put that brain power to like animals in the ocean. So I feel like that's just more fitting, and more fun to learn about.
No, I see why in all the Net Geo documentaries I see the males are over there tuckered out and almost snoring. My mom always says, you know, why are they so lazy? Why are the women always hunting? Yeah, I'd be sitting there sleeping too if I was yeah,
Yeah,
doing it 30,000 times. That's
every
insane.
every 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, no, yeah, no. I would need them to bring me something to eat afterwards too. That's crazy. So you were talking a bit about this at Yale. I had no idea beforehand. You were saying it's big for politicians. I mean, obviously we see with the political climate in the U.S. now, you see all these politicians. You know, you usually only see them every 4 years because of big elections, whatever. But I never thought of where they came from. Like I never in my life I thought of where they came from. So all these people, you're probably seeing people every day that in 20 years from now, maybe 15 years now, they could be a governor of this place or a senator or whatever. How was that feeling? How was that feeling? And how many of these people do you think came from very rich families and didn't have a background similar to yours?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think that being in a place where we've got like, so I say like high profile in the sense that like these people are really doing what they want to do in life, and like they're excelling at it. Like they're the best of the best, and you're all putting them in the same place. So it's like you can think of what that environment would be like academically. And if you were someone, like me, a few years ago where I didn't know what I want to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and like I felt that peer pressure, then you would just completely drown. Like you would completely drown. And that is something that is a problem on campus, is like mental health.
Mm.
Just because of that like high stakes environment. And yeah, and just people thinking about how these people will be the future leaders, world changers, policymakers, all of that. Like they're not necessarily going to be president. Like yes, they can be president. Like they for sure can be president,
Hmm.
but they will be in positions of power. Like they will be the people behind those people. Like they will be in very high places, like for sure. Um, some of them already are. Like it's insane. So coming from, community college and just like being in that mindset where like I had nothing to prove. I had nothing else to prove really. Like it's like I did my work. I really gave it my all, put my best foot forward, and I just so happened to get into Yale. So it's like I went there with that same mindset. Like I made it here. In fact, I like they were telling me that when I got in as a transfer student, they said that transfer students are so incredibly rare that like they said 95% of the people at Yale could not get in as a transfer student. So
Wow.
hearing that and being told that basically like I'm that 0.1% at Yale, right? I'm that 1% at Yale is like insane. It's just insane because it's like these people are like people Forbes, 20 under 20 or whatever, right? Like just crazy. So it's like I just felt like a normal person, and I treated them as normal people too. Like I didn't know whether someone was from a billionaire family or from first generation. Like that's sort of what I took value in also at Yale, is like, yeah, people have this image of everyone being snotty and rich and stuck up. And yeah, there are
Hmm.
people like that, but most of the people there are just completely normal, and like you wouldn't have thought that they had gone to Yale, like me. So I took a lot of pride in and just really appreciated the fact that there are just as much people who were coming from different backgrounds, like they're first generation college student, or low income, and they were on a full ride, to the people who could pay fully, were full pay, and like they had generations of just family members that also went to that school and they were legacy. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was just a very unique environment, like extremely unique. But at the end of the day, everyone was the same. Everyone was just extremely passionate about something and was just working towards that. So it's like that's sort of what I was focusing on. I wasn't focusing on like these big names and the money. Like, yeah, it's intimidating, but it's like I gotta also remember that I got in just like they did. And in fact, like I worked my
Hmm.
ass off and made a name for myself even harder than they did. Like some people didn't even have to work for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like I deserve to be there just as much, and sometimes if more than some of the other people there. So it's like I gotta tell myself that and not get so in my head about that. But yeah, like I guess to your question in terms of like distribution, like I can't say exactly what the distribution is, but just know that there's just as much people who were like first generation low income than there are people who come from really rich families. Like
Okay.
it's pretty like 50-50, at least to me.
Okay. So another thing, so this is a big question, and I'm really excited to ask you this. So if Jalen Smith gets huge grant, whole bunch of money from Nat Geo or National Science Foundation. You just get a huge contract from some big publisher. What would your dream filmmaking project be? Like, what would it center it? Like, what would be the topic of it? Where would you
Yeah.
be? Tell me. I'm excited because I want to plan this with you. I want to see it into fruition. I know you'll be able to do it.
Thank you, dude. Well, I would be lying if I said that I didn't want it to be on like the ocean. And right now, like I really want to do something on Indonesia. Like I really want to do something on
Hmm.
Indonesia. Like specifically Raja Ampat. Yeah, Emma mentioned it, like she was there and I was completely jealous, but it was like months leading up to that trip. I was getting like so many videos on this place in Indonesia, and it was basically considered like the last paradise on earth. And just because the reefs there, the coral reefs, they've got manta rays, just like all of the marine life there is like almost like untouched and just like in such a like incredible, like fascinating way where it's just so beautiful and so natural. And so like that's kind of where I envision like my passion project, like that passion. That's basically like the one right there is Indonesia. And getting to have a little bit of a taste of that, just free diving in Bali, like is just it just speaks volumes to just what else is out there. So I wanna see myself in Indonesia, like really hopefully sometime soon again. But yeah, I will put that out there that that's my passion project is Raja Ampat, Indonesia.
Man, shout out Emma and Yep5 and everyone that
Yeah,
gave you a great experience there, including myself, I guess. But
yeah.
it
Yep, five
was
forever, dude.
yeah, bro. I mean, you and KJ were awesome roommates. That was I said, I literally am trying to get my parents to move there for retirement because I was
Oh
so
my
in love
god.
with the area, and it was crazy that Emma, which is one of our the people that was on the boat with us in our cohort, she was like, yeah, like I don't know why I go to like America or like Canada, like stuff's mad expensive there, and
Yeah,
why would I ever want to leave here? And then experiencing that and buying that big old backpack and all the stuff that I bought there for like, you know, few dollars. I was like, boy, I wouldn't want to leave either. Like, why do I have to really go home? Do I have to go back and finish my internship? Do I got to
I
go
know.
back and deal with systemic racism? That's not really what I'm trying to
Oh
do right
man.
now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. That was funny. You reminded me of that conversation. You remember that conversation we had with Aki when we were describing that? Yeah, he wanted to understand better, but yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's just it's beautiful out there, and like I had a family member ask me like because I was used to people asking me like when I was in school, like I'm sure you were used to it too. Like, what are you gonna do after college? What are you gonna do after college? And it's like
Hmm.
now that I've graduated, people are asking me like, where am I gonna go? Where are you gonna go? And or like, where do you envision yourself being? Like, if I were to ever be somewhere long term. And Bali has been um, a reoccurring thought to me. Like, just
Hell
that
yeah,
little taste of that, like long term, like that would be really nice.
hell yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's I feel the exact same way. That was wonderful. I mean, I loved being with our cohort so much, and one of the funniest things was Aki, which is one of our Indonesian friends. He's like asking me, "Is it true that all black people play Tekken or are good at Tekken?" You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that
so
type of
random.
stuff. And yeah, that was hilarious. And that kind of stuff, especially seeing like the cultural like transfer from like some of our jokes and stuff that we do in America, like being mainstay over there, and then even our friends from Singapore who were saying, "Oh yeah, like they were asking the Singapore guy, are you from China? Are you from China?" When they were talking about TikTok
Yeah,
and all of that, and them saying, "Yeah, this is like our hallmark example of American." And like we're glad you guys aren't like that. Like that stuff was so crazy to me, and just finding out like even there them calling elevators lifts and stuff like that.
lives.
Like that
Yeah,
whole cultural shock was crazy for me.
right. Yeah, it's always like it's always really interesting and um, really nice to just learn about and also get away from American politics and culture, and also just learn about other cultures and be away from that and just disconnect and get to learn more about people who live on the other side of the world. And it's like, how do they live? How what's it like for them? So yeah,
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was up at the bridge, which is the top of a ship for people that don't know, with Philemon, and we were both like shaking hands at like 8 in the morning. Like, damn, this is the first time a black and Indian guy have probably been on the top of a high end research vessel in the ocean, in the Indian Ocean, and we were both like, damn, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? That's awesome to,
Yeah,
to feel that and to see that. That's just so beautiful to me and wonderful. And I think that everyone should have the experience of traveling on different places and trying different things. I know we were very blessed to have that opportunity and to even have that available. But I think it's just so important to your core as a human and you to be able to, I'm trying to think of the words, to understand other people and empathize with them when you see how they live in different things. Because when you go to Indonesia, you see how much people are giving to each other and how happy they are. Like, I mean, I was there a little after the time because my flight was way later than yours. And I see kids playing in the street, playing, soccer and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't remember the last time I've seen that in America when it wasn't a organized, like, select team. You know what I mean? And it's
yeah,
just crazy to experience that.
yeah. I think to that point, like just with a lot of stuff that it gets put in our faces here, like in America, that this is what we should want, and even in a very like technologically driven day and age with social media, and we got so many things in our face, and just because that's with everyone, right? We're being convinced is that this is the type of life we should want, but it's like when you're looking over there, it's like you're removed from that stuff, and it's just like back to the basics, like it's just so genuine and authentic and just really like wholesome, and it's like it's a simple life, and it's like I could live that type of life, and it's like we all can. It's just we're kind of like caught in the matrix or just whatever, because we got so much stuff in our face nowadays.
Yeah, totally. All right. So my last question for you, what are your future plans? What's the next thing you're doing after this? I mean, even what you're doing after this call, you can make lunch. Like what's next for you?
Immediately, yeah, I'm gonna eat lunch. But when we're talking like next few months or so, I I am excited to say that I'm gonna be in Brazil in March,
Ooh.
and so that's gonna be like a project filming, but also like planting. So I'm gonna be part of like this agroecology project, and this is with other Yale alumni, and I'm fortunate enough that they're going to be flying me out there. And so I'm going to spend some time there filming, and then also just going to be planting and giving back to the community. So I've got that planned for March, and then after that, it's not set, but yeah, looking at other opportunities, whether it be at sea or back in the field filming wildlife.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Jalen Smith, thank you so much for joining us, man. This was awesome. It was great to catch up. I missed you, bro. I mean, it's been a while since we've been able to have time to talk. I know we're both being busy trying to find jobs, do all other kind of
Yeah.
things. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. Then thank you all for listening. If you're looking to support the show or rock a super cool logo, then check out our website, blacknerdsmatter.printful.me. I got a shirt on right now. They're awesome. You look good
Go
in green.
support.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Dietrich. I really appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, of course, man. All right. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning into another episode of Black Nerds Matter. None of this is possible without you, our listeners. A special thank goes out to our music team. On guitar is Graham Hempstead, who can be found with his name on any of your favorite streaming platforms, and our sound engineer, Brian, who can be found on TikTok at brian.tyler.music. Thanks everyone for listening.